Comedian and actor Steve Martin said, "I've got to keep breathing. It'll be my worst business mistake if I don't." All right, welcome back. In this lecture, we will be talking about mouth breathing versus nose breathing. And this is really, really important. And this is also a game changer. So we're going to explore the difference between what we call a bad or an inefficient breather as opposed to a good or efficient breather. And then we'll also explore the whole breathing through the mouth or breathing through the nose thing. So if you look in the manual in this section, we'll take a look at the bad or the inefficient breather paradigm. So how does an inefficient breather breathe? Well, they are inclined to breathe shallow, mostly in the chest because the diaphragm is stuck, it's frozen. The flow of breath is choppy, it's erratic, and therefore there's a tendency for these kind of people to often hyperventilate. They usually breathe through the mouth, both on the inhales and the exhales, which also reinforces the likelihood that they will move into hyperventilation. When they encounter stress, they hold the breath. So the breath becomes restricted, it becomes shallow, they often will slip into fast breathing, and all of this reduces carbon dioxide. Later in the training, we'll really go deep into this dance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. So what happens when we reduce carbon dioxide levels in the body, though, is that it's going to constrict the blood vessels, and therefore the circulation of blood and oxygen in the body and the brain all become limited. So oxygen starvation regularly activates the sympathetic branch of the nervous system. It also is something that we will explore in greater detail in the whole section on the science of breathing. And so when we go into that sympathetic branch of the nervous system, now we are in fight, flight, or freeze mode. The heart's beating rapidly and irregularly, causing the person to feel all these things mentally and emotional. So they become forgetful, they become confused, they become dazed and confused, they become anxious, fearful, tense, irritable, chronically tired, depleted, and emotionally drained. So if that sounds like you, maybe it's due to just the fact that you are an inefficient breather. And by changing your breath and by moving through the 28-day program in this training of breathing practices, maybe that really will be a game changer for you. Now we'll talk about the opposite. So we'll talk about the paradigm of a good or an efficient breather. So what does a good breather look like? Well, a good breather, they breathe slowly, which optimizes the breathing process. The diaphragm moves naturally and free, the full range of motion, and it's connected to the whole entire torso. So they're not just breathing into the chest, but they're also breathing into the ribs, the belly, the lower back. They mostly breathe in and out through the nose, and the nose filters and humidifies the breath. Nasal breathing naturally slows the exhalation, which gives the lungs enough time to extract the maximum amount of oxygen and energy from each breath. So the perfect proportion of oxygen and carbon dioxide dilates the blood vessels. And as those blood vessels become dilated and they opened up, now we have blood flow and oxygenation circulating abundantly through the brain and the body. This deep diaphragmatic breath also is massaging the internal organs like the heart, the intestines, and this helps to improve the digestive process, the foods that we assimilate and therefore eliminate. So our whole digestive system improves because of the way that we're breathing properly. Now, when we are an efficient breather, we are not stuck just in that sympathetic branch of the nervous system, but we have a good balance between sympathetic and the parasympathetic branch. So the parasympathetic branch is increasing our ability to recharge, to recover, to repair, and to renew. So therefore, the good breather, the efficient breather, mentally and emotionally is going to feel more calm, more clear, steady, stable, equanimous, healthy, an abundance of energy. Their mood often feels joyful and happy. They just feel good. And when you feel good, it's hard not to be in a good mood. But when you feel bad, it's hard not to be in a bad mood. So as you can see, a good versus a bad breather, they really stand in stark contrast with each other. So now that takes us to our next topic, which is this idea of mouth breathing versus nose breathing, which is correlated to the good breathers and the bad breathers. In the Tao, it says the breath inhaled through the mouth is called Ni Qi, adverse breath, which is extremely harmful. Be careful not to have the breath inhaled through the mouth. So it's important to know that a lot of the teachings that we are exploring, they come from many of the great ancient wisdom traditions, whether that's yoga or Taoism or other systems as well. Now, it's interesting to note that the average person will take 670 million breaths over the course of their lifetime. Unfortunately, though, the way that we breathe has dramatically worsened since the dawn of the industrial age. As things have become more modernized and people have moved into cities and lost their connection to the great rhythms of nature, we've also seen that have an adverse impact on the way that people breathe. Scientists estimate 90% of the human population are breathing incorrectly, and this directly and indirectly is linked to a long list of chronic disease. So the good news is by learning to breathe properly, we can reduce or reverse some of these diseases and illnesses and conditions such as asthma, anxiety, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, psoriasis, diabetes, and many more. It can influence our body weight, our blood pressure, the nervous system, our immunity, athletic performance, overall health, and longevity of life. In other words, if the pharmaceutical industry was able to bottle up the benefits and the effects of breathwork, it could make billions of dollars off of this. So let's unpack this idea of mouth breathing and what it does. Well, it changes the physical body. It transforms the airways. In yoga, these are called the pranavaha shrutas, or the respiratory channels. It changes all of this for the worse. It causes the body to lose more than 40% in water. So we're much more likely to become dehydrated, our throats become dry, we feel like we wake up in the morning, our throat is parched. So this is how mouth breathers often wake up, feeling that way, because they've been breathing in and out through their mouth. They've lost a lot more moisture than the nasal breathers. Chronic insomnia is often a breathing problem. Most people that suffer from insomnia are mouth breathers. Now get this, mouth breathing also makes you less intelligent. It makes you more dumb. There was a Japanese study that showed that rats who had their nostrils obstructed and were forced into mouth breathing developed fewer brain cells and then took twice as long to navigate a maze than the nasal breathing rats. So if there's a connection between rats and humans in this context, which there probably is, think about it. You have less brain cells. You're moving through the labyrinth and the maze of life and all of its challenges and all of its unknowns and all of its uncertainty with a great disadvantage, as opposed to people that are breathing in and out through their nose. Mouth breathing disturbs the flow of oxygen to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is the part of the brain that is meant to be like the CEO of the rest of the brain. Or it's like the conductor that's supposed to conduct the rest of the symphony of the brain. So if the symphony conductor isn't showing up, then we're going to have mayhem. Instead of harmony, we're going to have disharmony. Contributes to gum disease, bad breath, cavities, more than bad diet and poor hygiene. Contributes to snoring, sleep apnea. It's estimated that 40% of today's population suffer from chronic nasal obstruction. Nearly 50% of the population are mouth breathers. So half of the people walking this planet are mouth breathers and therefore suffering in all these ways. When the nasal cavity gets congested, airflow decreases, bacteria increases and begins to flourish and perpetuate itself. And then this bacteria sends us into a constant loop and cycle of infection, colds, endless congestion. That's all from mouth breathing. Now, let's look at nose breathing. Nose breathing clears and moistens air for easier absorption. It lowers blood pressure. It improves and aids in digestion, which we learned about earlier. When we're breathing fully in and out through the whole torso, our digestive system benefits. It helps to regulate the heart rate. It helps to expand the lungs. Now, the lungs lose about 12% of their capacity from the age of 30 to 50. By the time you make it to the age of 80, you take in 30% less air than you did in your 20s, forcing you to breathe faster and harder, which has all sorts of adverse effects on the body. Nose breathing also develops the diaphragm. The diaphragm is really moving in its full range of motion. It's not limited. It's not getting stuck. It forces air against the flabby tissues at the back of your throat, causing the airways to become wider and the breathing process more efficient. These muscles and tissues stay more healthy. They stay more toned. Nasal breathing boosts nitric oxide 6-fold, allowing you to absorb 18% more oxygen than mouth breathing. Now, nitric oxide is a molecule that increases circulation and the delivery of oxygen to the cells, affecting everything from your immune function to your weight, to your circulation, your mood, and your sexual function as well. Nitrogen oxide also has antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. Think about this. In this world where we contend with viruses that have the power to shut down entire economies and nations and worlds, think about the power of nose breathing and how it becomes an antiviral. So we're much more likely to be protected by these harmful external bacteria and viruses that are in our external ecosystem. That's a good thing. The human body has evolved to have 2 options of breath, which is a good thing because this doubles the chance of our survival, to be able to breathe through the nose or to be able to breathe through the mouth. But we need to prioritize nasal breathing and only use the mouth as a backup plan. So if for some reason that nose gets blocked, then we go to that mouth breathing. All right, so at this point in the training, I have a task for you. This is very important. This is going to be a fun and interesting experiment. This experiment is called mouth taping. Mouth taping has been shown to help you sleep better, to reverse all those harmful effects that we just discussed about mouth breathing, and it teaches you to train yourself to breathe in and out through the nose. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to go out and you're going to purchase a special type of tape. This is what I'm holding right here. It's called 3M NextCare Durable Cloth Tape. So it's a surgical tape. And what's good about this tape is it's the right size. And when you take it off, you're not in total pain from ripping it off of your face. So it has a nice soft quality. So what you're going to do is you're going to get the tape. Once you get it, you're going to cut off a little piece. And you want that piece to be about the size of a postage stamp. So get my scissors here. Cut off a little square, a little rectangle. So something about that size. So you can think about Charlie Chaplin and how Charlie Chaplin used to have that little mustache right beneath the nose. You're going to take that piece of tape like the mustache and you're actually going to cover your mouth and cover your lips with it like this. And so now to the shot, I can't really talk, but I can still kind of breathe and get air if I need to in and out through the sides of the mouth. So you're going to put this tape on, and I recommend you start during the day. So maybe you're doing your emails or you're doing computer work for 30 to 60 minutes. And while you're doing that, you'll do the mouth tape. And this will cause you and train you to only breathe in and out through the nose. Once you feel comfortable with doing that during the day, then I'm going to ask you to do it at nighttime. So you'll apply it at nighttime for at least 7 nights. Now, it may feel weird. It may feel awkward at first, just like a lot of things that we learn and explore in life can feel. And you may notice that you wake up in the middle of the night and the tape is gone, it's disappeared. That's okay. You'll do it again the next night, and you just keep doing it at least 7 nights. And you think about if you're sleeping 7, 8+ hours at nighttime, all those hours that you're racking up of reaping the benefits of nasal breathing. So this is really, really important. We haven't started the 28-day program yet, but we're starting this technique of mouth taping. And then you're going to journal about this over those 7 days. You're also going to journal about it when you explore it during the daytime while you're doing your computer work. How did you feel the next morning after doing your mouth taping? How did you feel after 7 days of doing it? What changes did you notice? So that's your task. Purchase the tape, try it during the day, do it at nighttime for at least 7 nights. All right, in the meantime, that's it for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one where we introduce pranayama. Thank you.